For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello
and welcome
to episode 109 of That's a Shame. I'm Isaac, and joining me just on the sofa there, lying down like he's about to have his deepest psyche smeared across the ceiling of life, it's Declan Delane.
How you doing, everyone?
I hope they can hear that your face is on the same plane as the microphone, so there's like a weird bass reverberation. We're recording this on a... Why don't we start by talking about what the recording setup is, because it's unorthodox.
Oh, to say the least. Especially for our non-patron listeners.
Yeah, Declan's now rolled off the sofa and he's like crouched like he's sort of, I don't know, supplicating himself before the power of technology.
I'm actually hunting the phone.
Ah, you're about to pounce on it. So let me just take you back, because it's 3 a.m. now, of course, as it so often is in our lives.
Yeah, too often.
Many hours ago, we sat down and we had positively a beautiful experience of recording episode 109. It was easy. The conversation flowed. The jokes, I mean, some of the best.
There were
done.
too many.
It was too many. I was going to have to edit some out, but I was going to put them in a folder called Spare Jokes. And I'd just transplant them into future dull episodes.
Just drop them in.
Dull episodes. However, upon listening back to it, which I had to do because we covered some, let's be frank, controversial topics.
Yep.
So I was going to have to listen through and check that we were on message anyway.
Well, it was actually slightly more haunting than that. In that we recorded the very end.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember why, but listened back to the very final moments.
Literally the final words of
the
it. I said,
send-off.
what did I say? We'll see you on the next one or something.
See you then.
And it came out as see you next, or something like weird glitch stutter. So I was like, oh, that's weird. So I re-recorded the ending, which always feels a bit of a shame to have to recapture that energy, but it's why I make the big bucks.
At least this time the energy was catastrophically low.
Exactly.
So it was easy to...
Very easy to replicate. And I found that if you always aim for that low energy, then people won't
You'll definitely hit it.
Really good. So I recorded that. It was like, that's fine. And then started listening from the beginning. And in the first minute, there were about 5 of these little glitches, and they were fine as long as they didn't coincide with any of the words that we were saying out of our mouth holes.
Now the thing is that during the duration of a show,
they're more
we
word
say
more word
a
than nout is what I've always thought of it as. And so it meant that a lot of the meaning, the words, the episode was obscured behind a veil of technological fuck-uppery, the likes of which we've never really had on the pod before.
No, do you think it was a sign
from Jesus God saying that we'd flown too close to the sun? Well, no, I don't think so. But equally, mysterious ways.
Yeah, exactly.
And having just done a very holy episode 108, Holy Hair, then I can only imagine that his, capital H, attention is more precisely honed on the task sphere than ever before.
I think we should divert slightly from the last episode's format, the episode that we had to delete.
Yeah, there's a fun video that's been deleted on Twitter at That's a Shamecast.
And I think we should talk about our controversial discussion first, and then end on the high, of your story.
Okay,
because I thought
too much of a high.
No, but it's more of a high.
Yeah, sure.
Than the topic, because last time I thought we sort of ended, and then it was pretty depressing.
And then it all got destroyed in a fire.
Oh, no.
Whoops. I came out with a dent in my own foot from having kicked my computer to dust. Declan, no, the audio's gone. Damage. Beyond repair, you say.
His door was closed. I could just hear all these comedy, clunking sounds.
Siri, how to delete episodes.
They were in a cartoon when someone gets beaten up and there's just stars or a big cloud around Isaac's
I don't know
room.
what kind of cartoons you watch, but that sounds very violent. I stick to the Christian theological cartoons.
I bet Donald Faulkner
Faulkner for life. But yeah, sure. Although we did first have a discussion of Halloween. Is that relevant at all? Briefly?
No.
Okay, well, fuck that then. Bring it on.
Unless you want to. But
I guess
leads more nicely into...
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So here's the bullet point list. We're going to talk controversy. We're going to talk Halloween, film, and then we're out.
Yeah. So basically, the discussion was brought on because Isaac's story involves the fact that he watched The Shining.
Yeah.
And I brought up the fact that I had been having something of a moral quandary of late. Because
you could see it. It's taken its toll on your face. It's lined. It's
and
a
all
rugged
this weight I've lost.
Yeah, it's really quite something.
I've been having this moral quandary because of an internet person.
Oh, an IP.
An internet artist by the name of Pogo, who does like EDM remixes like of films, basically.
Mostly he came to prominence with Disney was his vibe. And they're also accompanied by very nice videos where it's like he's taken sounds from the films.
Yeah, it's like quite diegetic, and then
I think it's almost exclusively sounds from the films usually.
Yeah. And he recently did one of The Shining, and it's very, very, very good.
It is, it's good.
Now, the moral quandary part comes about because Pogo himself is an enormous cunt.
Yeah.
He's one of these very, very horrible people who's an out-and-out racist and homophobe.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware.
Transphobe.
Now, I imagine Pogo, were he here, would query our assignment, I suppose, of these terms, these slurs against him, which would be quite ironic because there is video evidence of him slurring away.
Yeah, and not like video evidence necessarily, all of it that just sort of got exposed and it's being misconstrued. We're talking about that happened, and then he himself made videos going, I believe all this.
Which is really the phrase doubling down.
Yeah, at least it was a move people didn't see coming.
Yeah, true. He's also, as we discussed in the RIP Forgotten episode, he comes across in most videos of himself as a very insufferable sort of self-important, like he speaks very slowly and condescendingly about the issues. And maybe you don't understand it because you're some kind of liberal, but this is the way the world is.
And he speaks in the same way when he talks about making the videos that he makes, the song videos. Yeah. And that there, it's even more infuriating because he is obviously very right in everything he's saying.
Very good and correct and innovative music producer, but very incorrect, bad, and whatever the opposite regressive opinion haver more broadly.
Yeah, reactionary.
Sure.
Yeah, so the quandary there is...
He's asked you you matched on Hinge.
Am I doing a true moral whoopsie?
A true crime.
Yeah. When I listen to his stuff. Is it bad?
Is it? And you're asking me because you see me as a kind of moral arbiter. Correctly.
No, sounding board.
A kind of arbiter, like a King Solomon.
Well, also because you also listen to some of his stuff.
I have never listened to, and I deny all knowledge of this Pogo. That sounds offensive. It's not, though. It just sounded it. Okay, so
that's exactly what Pogo would say.
No, it's not. He'd make a 20-minute video about why he actually meant something much worse.
Pogo is the most racist term
that I can think of, and I've thought of them all, shouted Pogo gleefully.
Well,
thank you for coming in. Maybe we'd like to role play it like I'm a kind of spiritual advisor.
I don't.
So look, I'll sit here.
I would much rather prefer that we just do it as we planned.
I'll be humming
as a kind of overview of what we'd said, because this is both off-putting.
Come in, my child.
And I feel like it...
Take a seat at the foot of the mount.
I feel like it borders on taking the issues even less seriously.
I think it's a very serious framework in which to develop the ideas using the Socratic dialogue.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say Socratic dialogue.
Because of course I would.
But that's exactly what it is, because you just crossed your legs and went,
That's why he did.
That's racist.
I've read The Republic. That's what it was all about. That was Plato.
I love that, like the idea that of a Socratic dialogue where one side's talking and the other just goes,
That's where we got the noise from.
It's like, Plato goes on for like 3 pages about what is the essence of democracy.
Yeah.
And whoever he's chatting with, it just says like nods.
Nods, comma.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Cool. See you later. Okay.
So what were the points?
What were the points? Well, I think we started out with, there was a really beautiful, I don't know if you remember that bit in Making a Murderer, where Dean Strang, improvised this monologue about the nature of justice.
Yeah.
And it went on for a few minutes. It was what was great about it was that it was poetic, factual, relevant, but also he stumbled at places because it was something he was coming up with on the fly.
Yeah.
Even whilst being a very high profile now lawyer, you could see that the gears were turning as he spoke. So I did one of those, and that went
did you? Yeah.
5 to 12 minutes.
And that's all lost, you say?
And for some reason,
oh no,
it's probably it's ahead of its time. So I think it's
the computer, the equipment literally could not handle it.
It's been with me for long enough that we have that kind of symbiosis where it's like, Isaac, the world's not ready for this.
I'm doing you a favour.
I'll do a glitch over it. So obviously that's a shame that that's gone. But maybe you'd like to recap some of my key points.
Some of your key points involved you agreeing vehemently that Stephen Sondheim was a racist.
Yeah, that was it.
No, so essentially we tentatively agreed.
Yep.
You can separate art and artist.
In most circumstances.
Yeah.
Well, we said it's theoretically possible at least.
Yeah.
But that the actual ability to do so depends on your own, I guess, proximity to whatever they've done.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Yeah. And that we therefore...
Mostly bad.
As people who are, reasonably privileged, would you say?
More than that. Don't know if you've seen
would you
my
say
cool new
Tiffany
haircut.
tip top of the social mountain?
There we are.
That, thankfully for us, that means we're affected by very few.
Yeah.
Of the issues involved. So I'll be honest, I gleefully separate.
I actually only listen to music from imprisoned artists.
Just do it for the kick.
What a weird thing to get off on, but someone has to.
No.
That was all a joke, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, just
that's why we were laughing.
Oh, okay, because we weren't laughing in a mean-spirited way.
No.
From atop the Mount Privilo.
No.
That's a horrid word.
You're going to have to edit
Mount
this
Privilo.
On your phone.
Dreadful.
But also admitted that I think it is predicated largely on a kind of moral hypocrisy that you know it's worse than you're treating it. But at the same time, as you said, it's not your responsibility as one listener to take the moral stance for everyone else and punish yourself through that.
There's only so much you can do, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to, as I said, listen on platforms that would give him any money.
Yeah, and we floated the idea of maybe ripping his entire music collection and just distributing it in our day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any way he could.
I'm certain, and I've done quite a few seconds of research. I think it's absolutely.
You think we're all right? Okay.
It's fair use.
So we'll pop that up under your name.
Our name, yeah, but that's a shame band.
Well, you're always saying you're like lead tenant. You're always saying how you're the main host of the show. So I suppose it should come under your name.
The podcast's actually legally registered to my parents' address, so let's go for it.
Okay,
Absolutely fine. Sorry, Mum. Imagine if Pogo rocked up at my mum's house with a furious homophobic rant about how he'd been robbing him.
Furious homophobic lawsuit.
Oh no! Again,
we had a bit of hypothesizing, didn't we?
We did
because it's hard sometimes. Harder if you actually like the person. Like I never liked Pogo.
It's not like you were.
It was just a channel name.
Yeah.
Until I found out that he was a massive dickhead. So
really backfired for him. That behind the scenes.
So as soon as I knew of him as a person, I hated him. So it didn't really.
You didn't feel like you'd lost.
I didn't feel like I'd lost anything. I just felt like a bit fucked off that once again my enjoyment of something was going to have to be riddled by the fact that he was a total arsehole.
Yeah.
But we were saying, like the two main discussion threads were, how much worse is it and how differently do you handle it if it's someone you love? So we're saying to Isaac, if it came out tomorrow that Stephen Sondheim was the most
behind the Iraq war.
And out.
He
single-handedly murdered Dr. David Kelly.
Oh, wow.
That, and then a week after released a new show.
Yeah. I'll be front row. Preview.
But how would you feel about it?
Yeah, well, what we said last time, I guess at this point, let's pretend that all these opinions are now novel because people will tire of the addendum of what we said last time. Yeah. So I've just had this thought right now off the top of my head that for me, a musical is more abstracted from its creator than some other art forms. And it's probably at least partially an arbitrary distinction, but it doesn't feel like you're in the bosom of the creator. It's a really horrid expression, and I'm sorry for inflicting it on all concerned.
And did you come up with that sat atop Mount Privilo?
I've never scaled the heady heights of Mount Privilo. I got stuck at base camp too. I was kicked down by a girl with 3 pet horses and too much time on her hands. So yeah, for me, I would find it easier to be like, I don't know, if we found out that Lin-Manuel punched goats on a weekend.
I'd be so happy.
After finishing a 25-minute victory lap, then I would not find it too hard to go and see that, because it doesn't feel like you're in their presence. It doesn't feel like I'm hanging out with this person. They're inflicting their direct opinions on me. And in fact, I think that's definitely is the case with Sondheim. Like, he's not the demon barber of Fleet Street.
No.
He's not Bobby. He's not George. He's not his own characters.
And am I allowed to use this for Pogo because it's just a song?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the things that he does his work with are the furthest. Like, Alice in Wonderland is the furthest from being a racist.
Yeah, a racist homophobe. That
you could possibly be.
Yeah.
And the songs are all really sweet.
Yeah. They're very wholesome Disney songs quite often.
What's going on? Like, is he fully mental?
Do you think because there's some weird attraction to that genre?
Yeah.
Don't know. That's another episode. We'll diagnose him on the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think songs are another good example, for the most part, of a medium where, at least in more polished productions, maybe it's unfair, but I would say like electronic music, pop music, more than like folk music, or
definitely blues,
spoken word like ballads or something. Then you feel less of a connection directly with the artist. You're like, oh, I really enjoy their output. I don't feel like listening to Daft Punk. I get to know the people who I honestly don't know who they are anyway. Like, unlike what my example previously was, reading a book, I guess obviously a memoir would tick the box, but just the novel of someone who you know to be a total anachronistic cunt, by which I mean even in their time they were behind them, then that would feel worse, because books feel more intimate. But I do recognise that that's very much just an opinion.
So then the other question is, and was, do you feel that works after you find out are more tainted than the ones before?
Give me an example. It can be hypothet.
Okay, let's go back
Chuck one up Mount Privilo.
Let's go back to Steve, because whilst you wouldn't mind, like, you'd still go and see it.
Yeah.
You probably feel a bit shit.
Oh, I'd be very disappointed in that, for sure.
But would you feel worse? Would that feeling be stronger seeing the new thing that he came out with afterwards, once you know? Or would you still look back at like Company and be like, fuck's sake,
I think it would be proportional to how much I liked what it was anyway. Because then the more you invest in it, the more you feel betrayed by their diversion from what is an acceptable opinion or like moral stance to have. So if it was like a show I didn't really care for, I mean, this is a bad example because obviously they're all the best shows there are. If he'd written a show called Hamilton and it wasn't that great, then I'd be like, oh, that's, whatever. But then if I went to see Sunday in the Park with George and just in the background was this expose that the New York Times did about how he punched, I don't know, Mother Teresa. No.
Yeah, she's
problematic. Who would be very bad to punch?
Yeah, she was.
Danny DeVito.
Oh, yeah.
If like I found out that Sondheim is devoting the rest of his time on Earth to like ruining Danny DeVito for no reason.
He was like one of the largest donators to the Conservatives.
Oh no! Or he like donates to like the opposite of children's hospitals.
What's that?
He actively
child murderers
hospitals where possible by like he convinces them to put on really expensive productions of his shows, like the Into the Woods school version, but then like ups the price to rent the school.
Oh no!
And he doesn't do that. We should clarify, to our knowledge.
Yeah.
It would be a shame if he came out.
God, that would be so bad.
That would be really
because you particularly would look as though you had known.
Well, there's a lot you can deny and a lot that is editable in the podcast feed, such as my presence in the show, can be scrubbed with a mere 24 hours.
I like the idea that, you know, the reason it takes you, like, there's always 10 minutes after we, like, have finished where I, like, put the chairs back in this room and I'm in another room and I have to send through, like, the episode description.
Yeah.
But in which time Isaac's uploading it. And I like the idea that actually in that time, he's like just adding to this dead man's trigger that he's where it's him selecting only his audio and just has something set up so that with a single button, the entire podcast history just becomes me talking to nothing for hours and hours on
That'd
end.
be good, wouldn't it? You could automate that probably if you were that way inclined, but it's a lot of effort and I haven't done it yet, but it's something to consider. Thank you very much. But I think overall, where did we land? Because we solved the issue, of course.
Yeah, that was the biggest shame of the
really
episodes being... I think we came to a few broad conclusions. One being that, as we've said already...
Sondheim didn't do Iraq.
Definitely.
Yep.
Two is that it depends on both your proximity to the crime in question, and also
crime in a broad sense.
Yeah, and also to the type of art or artist that it is. Like we said, you know, something like a stand-up show where it is ostensibly extraordinarily
we were talking
personal.
about Louis C.K., weren't we? That would be uncomfortable, especially because a lot of his material is about sex and
very
stuff.
dark.
Yeah, you'd feel like I don't really trust you to be the arbiter of what's acceptable to talk about.
No,
when you just masturbate in front of people at
all the
moment's
time. Notice. Whereas, as you say, something like a musical can be far more removed,
or like a painting. Like if I looked at the painting, if Hitler's paintings hang on this wall, I wouldn't know.
No,
I wouldn't look at it and go, "Fuck, that's a racist painting."
Very anti-Semitic painting.
Unless it was.
Yeah,
but I believe he mostly did quite mediocre landscapes.
Yeah.
So,
the second, probably one of the bigger conclusions was that we're not necessarily the best people to decide on this.
But I'm interested in, because I guess our role as the privileged then is to be responsive to if our thesis is that your proximity is what affects it for an individual, like to what extent do individuals who are very close to the topic at hand require our solidarity above the board, like all over. So in the case of Louis C.K., where he was actively kind of, after he'd abused these they were female comics bunch of them, then he was getting them deplatformed and actively kind of stopping their career progressing by trying to shut them up about it. That seems to require a very concerted
direct
effort to be like,
blanket,
absolutely don't be doing that.
Refusal.
No one's going to come and see you. I wouldn't have anyway, really. But I now can say that I wouldn't and feel even better about it. But other more niche acts, it's complex, I suppose.
Yeah, and as well there, we hit on something that we mentioned in the original but haven't here, is does it matter about when this was? So that's fine. I don't think any self-respecting person would go and see Louis C.K. now.
Work out his new tour.
Yeah. But
shame that so many people will.
But can you, if you were a big fan of his comedy, can you watch his old stuff?
I feel like yes, because it's not like he's erased. And in fact, probably as long as you're not paying him for it, which is obviously going to be the case, because it's already up on YouTube, I don't feel like there's much point in pretending he never existed. No. Because that seems to somehow erase the morality tale that is, oh, look, this very famous man built his career off the back of shutting other people up about his sexual assault.
Yeah. And as well, I think that it's, especially in a case like that where, whilst certainly there were people who did know the full extent of what was going on, for most people, they did not.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not fair, I think, to pin the blame on people for having enjoyed it.
No, I don't think people should feel retroactively guilty about oh fuck, I laughed at that Clifford the Big Red Dog routine 10 years before I knew that he was a Quim.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm dreadful, and I now no longer find those same things funny.
Yeah, I think that's where it crosses the line into
Like
sort of
weird
pointless self-flagellation.
There we go. You see. And
Whenever
we didn't even say that in the last show.
didn't.
That's just...
Here's a little aside, and I wonder if this is because we've had a great moment of synchronicity there, and I wonder if it will continue when I let you know that my only, you know how some words make an image flash into your head, creative juices makes me want to vomit in my own mouth.
Are you going to talk about the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah, Silas, self-flagellating,
Yes,
pale as
probably
you like.
where we first read the word.
God, but no, I specifically picture what's his name
In the
Paul
film.
Bettany.
Yeah.
Naked and pale as a newborn fish.
Cat of 12 tails, just
Yeah.
smashing
Loves
it
it,
into his own back
Cats
scars.
at shame.city, let us know what you picture when you hear self-flagellation. Keep it PG.
That should be a feature we have every show. There's a new word that we say, and people have to message us what do they picture.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So this week's is self-flagellation.
Just put what should be in the subject line. Nah, doesn't matter.
Doesn't
We'll
anything.
workshop a name for it.
Yeah. So then, if it's the case that people don't have to self-flagellate about liking the old stuff of, say, Louis C.K., with someone like Pogo, whose platform and like presence is much smaller.
Yeah.
His actual, I don't know, like the number of people who are aware of him,
His
his
reach.
following, his reach, is much smaller. And
Bigger now that we've told everyone about it.
yeah, and his views are appalling. But as far as I know, he's not doing anything with them.
No. He's not what? You mean he's not mobilising a troop of homophobic activists?
Ravers.
Homophobic EDM fans.
Yeah.
That would be mad.
To go and...
That's like a Footloose or something.
Yeah.
Really Dirty Dancing.
A really bad retelling.
Yeah, I don't remember which film I mean. The one where they banned. They're making a Dance Revolution film. You know the game?
What?
You know the game where you
forwards,
step on
backwards,
different...
left or right.
Yeah, they're making that, and the premise is dancing has been outlawed again. Whoops.
It's in the same town as Footloose.
But it's 1,000 years later, and all the robots are just frogging around.
And this time it's people actually just come to the conclusion that if dancing's just forwards, backwards, left or right,
better off
may as well just leave it. It's not worth saving. Yeah, so given all of these about Pogo, do I have to stop?
I don't think you have to stop. I would, my approach would be, like we've said, avoid financing him.
Yeah.
But again, like the line of how much you want to go out of your way as a consumer of his content to find mediums through which he can't profit. Because people, I don't know if you've noticed this these days, people will profit off almost anything they can.
Lots and lots of
I don't know what it's about. It's happening everywhere. But the balance between how much effort you're willing to put into that versus the convenience versus you wanting to stick it to the homophobe man.
Yeah.
Then I guess that's an individual line to draw.
It is an individual line. But again, I think it comes back to it should ultimately be informed by people who are more closely affected by it. I mean, as we said in the last, there are almost certainly LGBT fans of Pogo's music.
Yeah, definitely.
People who like watch his videos and know that about him as well. So I suppose it's, at what point does the consensus swing?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, lads, if you all think I'm a cunt, let me know and I'll just rip his whole channel.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll re-upload it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll like add some lyrics to it as well, because I felt that's what's been missing is some original lyrics that weren't in the films. Because I've got a lot to say about Alice in Wonderland and The Shining, and
your own relationships to those two protagonists.
Yeah.
Well, one's an antagonist, I suppose.
Which one?
Jack Torrance.
He's not. Are you saying he's the protagonist of The Shining?
No, I just said he's actually the antagonist.
But he's the lead character that you went to.
He's the one that I presume you identify with.
I identify with Tony. Danny's little psychic.
No.
Psychic mouth presence.
Talk about it.
You've made him sound like the Spiderman. What's that tingly felon, Danny?
Must be nothing.
What I was thinking this when I watched The Shining. Look at this natural segue into talking about what I did.
I know.
So natural that I'm going to just leave that there. That was a teaser. And now we go back to the start of the story, which is that yesterday, well, strictly 2 days ago now. Friday night. Is that right? Or
Saturday night.
Fuck, I can't tell days.
It's all right.
Saturday night it was, 8:45 I wager. And there I was with my friend Matthew, friend of the show, person who licensed the audio product with which we make all our episodes.
He did indeed.
Thanks very much, pal.
Thanks, pal. If you could tell us why it's beeping its way through all of our...
That'd be great. We don't blame you because you've given us 109 on the house, but one more would have been good. We went, it's his birthday in August, and it's Halloween this month. Are you aware of that?
Oh, yeah. Well aware.
Happy Spooktober to you, of course.
And to you.
Thank you very much. And also with you, the listenership at large.
And the Lord.
Well, yeah, I was getting to the Lord. Like,
the spooky Lord.
Don't show me up on that, okay? Because I was getting to him, and you need to know that. We went to a horror all-nighter. There was a choice, classic or modern all-nighter. And after much toing and froing, I settled on classic.
What were the options for modern?
Well, I don't remember them all. I remember that one of them was a mystery film. But the ones I do remember were good. There was Babadook, which I love. There was Get Out, which I love. Good. There was It Follows, which I strongly like. Mm-hmm. There was A Quiet Place, which I haven't seen. But I have a feeling I'd like well enough.
Yeah.
And then there was probably something else. So there was that versus what I ended up going to see, which was, if I can remember the order, Friday the 13th, The Shining, The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a pretty stacked lineup. Weird that it didn't have Halloween, I thought. But maybe that's because there's a new one coming out. So
yeah, probably.
Can't license it or some bullshit.
Almost certainly.
That's a shame, though, isn't it? Because it's better than half of those films easily, I would say. So we opted for classic. Was that the right move, do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the modern ones were good, but I felt like it would be less fun because they're
a lot less fun.
They're not. You can't really laugh at.
No, there's less like cheesy bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Like Nightmare on Elm Street is just hilarious.
It's such a funny.
It has some of the weirdest, like the subplot about the mum just always drinking vodka in every scene. Like relentlessly, she'll be talking in a normal scene and then we'll just pull out vodka from an increasingly unlikely crevice. It really gets to you.
Say that again.
But yeah,
I tell you what, your days on Mount Privilo
oh no, it's going to be an avalanche.
Have led to some of the most egregious turns of phrase.
Lingo crimes.
You no longer know the effect your words can have on others. You're like
I've never known. I've always suspected. All those people crying in my wake.
Sometimes when you go to bed, I just sit here for hours and hours and try and figure out how one tiny man can come up with such an unlimited vestibule of linguistic horror.
Thank you very much. But yeah, no. I think I'm taking it as a compliment. I can do that. It's one of my powers.
I thought you might.
It's one of the Privilo powers. You can just warp it into a comp. Okay, so there I am, sitting there. Now, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and in hindsight, it was a good idea. But 6 films, let me tell you, that's
a long time.
A while. And it was only when we were in the shop planning for a Russell-free snack experience that took us... We were in Tesco for like 45 minutes trying to find the optimally silent snacks. Yeah. Which is a challenge.
Russell-free, of course, being Russell STLE, not SSEL.
Which is Matthew's dad.
Yeah.
And he wasn't invited, so in a way it was both.
It was a Russell-free.
Yeah. It was only when we were sort of buying snacks and I was like, we've got like some biscuits, some fruit, that'll probably do. And then Matthew was like, we've got 12 hours. It's like, fuck. Yeah, we do as well. So we had to get about 8 times as many things as I thought initially. Some observations. First of all, I told before about this weird couple that was sitting next to me and about how small things, I think this is a theme that we should come back to, much like our small mistake, big error, or is it the other way around? Small error, big mistake. Yeah. Or like this, but not this. We need a name for it that I haven't thought of yet. But small things people can do that tell you they're broken as individuals.
So this is what? Small trait, big no-no.
No, it's not. And in fact, you just did one of them in a staggering display of irony. Yeah, we need a fun name for it. But you know what I mean? Like there'll be something someone can do that gives you an insight into their worldview that was hitherto unknown. or assumed on your part, being a generous spirit that I assume you are, as a generous spirit myself.
Especially this spooky time of the year.
Yeah, well, we have to be, don't we? When skellies are all about, you don't know what's going on in someone else's life. You don't know what that lived experience is like as a skeleton man.
No.
And so it's not often that you see them do something and you're like, oh, here's an example. People who play music out loud on a bus. It's a very classic one. But I know, like, with 100% certainty that anyone who does that, I could not like. We are opposite people.
Incompatible.
And they are horrible, broken idiots. Like, that's just certain, isn't it?
Well, yeah, like there's no logical reason. Like either they're doing it because they're actively trying to annoy you, in which case there's some sort of weird psychopathy going on that you just wanted to annoy some rando on the bus.
Can't understand.
Or you don't realise that that's just so egregiously wrong.
Worse.
And that is worse.
Yeah.
And at least I can come to hate respect you if you're trying to just do it just to annoy me.
There was a flavour of that on a bus I was on recently, which was just a guy who was sitting in like the middle of the back row, which, as a brief, imagine this, there's like a passage that goes up the middle of a bus, and then the back row is there on the back. It's a big line. But before that, the path is a single person wide. And he was sitting in the middle of the back row with his legs like completely stretched out so no one else could get to the back row. And I wanted to sit there. So I asked him to move, which he kind of did begrudgingly. And then he answered a phone call and spent 25 minutes in the loudest voice.
Yeah,
saying,
what is that about?
I'm going to get a couple of beers and... Yeah, no, I'm going to just get a couple of beers and then... What, are they gone out already? Yeah, well, I'm going to get a cup. I was like, mate, I know you're going to get a fucking couple of beers. The woman sitting opposite me was just staring at him like he was some sort of creature that had landed, which he may as well have been, having such little regard for social mores. And things like that can just tell you in an instant all you need to know, I think. Yeah. Maybe that's a kind of
they do.
Jumping to conclusions.
No, they definitely do.
Because he could do that on the bus, but then go home and like he's caring for 25 refugee families.
It's entirely nullified by that.
And also, more importantly, he's not doing that.
No,
for sure.
Definitely
he was
not.
getting a couple of beers, and then not going out by the sun.
A couple of beers.
God, he was dreadful. So yeah, there was this couple that came after the first film had finished, which I thought was a bit weird because like you've paid the ticket for the whole 6 films. The whole point of it is that it's a movie marathon thing. Like you don't just turn up because you really like The Exorcist and then leave for the other 5. That would be weird. Like, just watch it at home, mate. It's easy. So they came and sat down right next to us.
I so hope that it's that, like, they wanted to watch it when it first came out in cinemas and they weren't quite old enough. And, like, they've been waiting 30, 40 years since. And they're like, this is our chance.
It's the only way.
It's in the middle of 6 other films.
We'll just slice it right out, bisecting the whole thing. But they came and sat, and this is a hint at one of these things, but it doesn't quite tip over into the full category.
For me, it definitely
They
is.
sat too close. Like, there wasn't a whole row free, but they could have been like 2-3 seats away, but they chose to sit right next to me at the end of the row. That was a bit of an issue, because I had like a bag of 12 hours of supplies. You want a bit more space around you if you're going to be sat there for 12 hours. Yeah,
there's not loads of space to move around Matthew if he's like in those tiny little
giant man
in those tiny little chairs as well.
Absolutely, and he was kind of safeguarding the aisle seat.
Yeah,
which meant that what was to happen was only more annoying.
Yeah,
because him having to move so much. It was jokes. When we sat down in the row, I was reminded by Matthew of the time we used to go to Fright Fest, which is a horror film festival in London. And Matthew, like I've said, is a big chap. He's like 7.5 feet tall, about 7.5 feet in every direction. He's just a huge person. And if Matthew jumps at horror films, which he's wont to do because he, more than almost anyone else I know, has a great enviable capacity to just get into some media very quickly.
Yeah.
Like if he's reading a book, he's like in the book world, or if he's watching a film, he's like in it completely.
It's really quite dangerous for him to own VR.
Oh God, yeah. But sometimes watching Matthew's face, which is what I was doing in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is more entertaining than the film. Because it's just like a whole gamut of a range of expressions that you don't see otherwise. But he said when he sat down in the in the seat, like, hope this row's ready, just looking there. Because if he was going to do a big jump, there weren't too many jump scares, then everyone was going to know about it. So there we were. The guy had sat too close, as had the girl with him, but he immediately started chatting and was quite amicable, offered popcorn, which I was like, that's all right. He's made a tribute to the gods on Mount Privilo.
Oh, right.
Is how I saw the interaction.
Is that how you see
It's
all
how I frame
interactions?
a lot of them. Yeah. Oh, cool! Another tribute to the gods of Mount Privilo. It's a bill from BT. Thanks, guys. Lovely to know you care. So I thought, okay, fair enough. Like maybe I'll make a new cinema friend. But what actually happened was that it was almost like they were going through every different set of circumstances that could lead you to go in and out of the same cinema screen throughout one film. Like first of all, she left just before it started, presumably to go and get a drink. Came back like 20 minutes in with a drink that she'd clearly been drinking out in the lobby, which is weird. If you're, again, there solely for the cinema experience. Because it's not like a cinema and bar. It's a cinema that has a small bar.
Yeah.
5 minutes after that, maybe 10 minutes, he went out and just sort of stood in the aisle for a bit, like looking around like he'd dropped something, but then went off. Came back a few minutes later, then she went, and then they both went, and then they both came back. Like it was every permutation of how can we fucking infuriate the people here.
After the third, that would have been it for me.
The third was about 2 seconds. Yep. The third was Jack Torrance was like skipping around, loving family life.
I would have screamed.
It got to the point by the end of The Shining. Well, not even the end, really. Probably like the start of Act 3, that when they both got up to leave, the people around were like looking with commiserating glances and confusion at me. Like I might offer some insight into what they were doing. Like, oh yeah, they're going through something right now. Like I don't know what they were expecting. People like looking and doing the hands up gestures and shaking their heads. And I was like mouthing, no idea, to about 20 strangers. Eventually they both left just in the kind of climactic moments of the maze scene in The Shining. Very good that they got in the way for that.
Good time to go,
Very good time. And that was it. They didn't ever come back. Despite the guy having specifically told me how excited he was about how he just marathoned the Friday the 13th films, which is why he didn't come to it. He goes to these things all the time. So that's a man who purports to know the form, but has broken it so catastrophically.
So like...
that I can't get on board with him as an individual.
Oh,
Declan's despairing.
some people should just be deleted.
Oh, from the whole planet?
Yeah. Just, I don't just mean killed.
No.
It's more fundamental than that.
Do you mean like in
every
that Black Mirror
trace of
episode where
them,
people are blocked?
Yeah, even more than that. I mean, like in Back to the Future that we talked about recently, how when he's like back in time
and they fade
and they're fading in the photo, that like they're just gone. They were never there.
But do you think it should happen slowly enough that they're aware of the fade?
No, I think they should just have to sit above like ghosts, just watching the world without them in it.
Forced not to be able to interact.
Yeah, they can't interact with each other.
That sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a horrid hell you've created there. But yeah, it was an unfortunate experience to see someone get so close and yet so far away from the concept of being
to misunderstand sitting down.
Unlike you though, I don't want to delete them. I just want to sit down. Like I just want to have a conversation where I'm like, what were you doing?
You don't, because they'd take a phone call in the middle of it to go and get a
You'd
drink.
have to go out a few times. But I just want to know.
It's just go get a couple of
beers. I want
beers.
to just shake their heads until the thoughts run out. And you can just
Do you mean run out as in run out of them, or run out as in just stop?
Yes, inclusive or. But yeah, it was good. The final thing of note was that between each film you had a very short break. In my head we were going to have a while, like to go and get food or something, but clearly I'd not thought through the chronology, because that would have taken us to next week to complete. So we had like 10 minutes max between each one to like go to the bathroom, get a drink, maybe go outside, which is a good like blast of cold air in Leicester Square to keep you awake for the next one. I led some people in star jumps, which was really good for all of them. I'm always trying to get people to do star jumps.
Yeah.
My girlfriend gets very annoyed because if she's feeling like sad or anything, I always do tell her to do a star jump, and she, for some reason, doesn't take that advice in the kind spirit.
I'm extraordinarily glad that you've never seen fit to try and make me do star jumps.
I think you'd really benefit from it. Next time you're feeling low, just get one of these. It's impossible to be sad with a star jump.
I bet it's not.
It really
I bet
is.
I could do it.
Imagine crying while star jumping. No, it's not possible.
Here's a novel idea I've just come up with.
Go on. You're pitching it, are you?
Yeah, I'm pitching it to you.
Come on.
It's something that I think is total bullshit.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of stuff that seems to sell these days, isn't it?
I've noticed that as well.
And it's a combination of a few things that we've mentioned. Films.
Yep.
VR.
Been there.
And something we haven't talked about, but is relevant, theatre.
Oh, yeah, I know them.
Now, you remember when we went to go and see Network?
Yes, Network at the National Theatre with Bryan Cranston.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Network, fantastic film.
Yeah, very
really,
good
really
film.
very good film. Also a play.
There was a play of Network.
Yeah. That starred Bryan Cranston,
Yeah.
who was very, very good.
But he just is very good at acting.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be.
It had a very, very cool set. I
Yeah,
thought,
really nice.
And some really nice, like, camera work and some, like, manoeuvres, because the play was also being, like, streamed live on a screen that you could watch and see things from different angles. There were some cool things, but the play itself, it just didn't work.
It didn't. I don't
really
feel like it worked.
And
really,
the other best character in it was neutered.
Oh yeah, that speech where he did it on the end of like a gangplank.
Yeah, it looked like he was about to be like
looked like
marooned.
Captain Hook was going to just push him into the croc.
But you may remember that there was a revolutionary way to see the play called Food Work. A name literal
Honestly,
minutes
like,
in the brainstorming.
I don't believe anyone thought of the name. I think the name just happened. Like someone just came in and it was on a board.
Yeah.
But no one wrote it because it cannot be the product of human thought.
No.
To look at the concept of Network as a play, the idea of dining on stage for no good reason, and to say food work. If anyone
It's
thought
food,
of that,
it's Network,
they should
it's
be
Food Work.
the solely deleted candidate.
So what this was the chance that every night there were like 20 spots available to just have dinner on the stage while the show was happening, and you would watch the show.
Because one of the sets that for some reason isn't in the film that much,
and wasn't in the play that much either,
is a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I guess generously the idea was to generate some realistic ambience and to have some stuff to play off. They kind of directed a few, let's be honest, cheap gags to the people who were sat there, who reacted in that sort of faux embarrassed way that is the only way you can react.
Yeah, and the only way you should, really.
And isn't so much funny as it is predictable and tragic for sure.
But yeah, so it was...
I hear the food was nice.
Yeah, weirdly, it wasn't as distracting as I assumed it would be.
Yeah, I agree.
But I almost think that's worse because it was so nothing.
It was a non-feature, and it just came across like, I don't know if the National's on hard times.
It wasn't enjoyable for them, and it wasn't enjoyable for us, and it cannot have been enjoyable for the actors.
No,
so
very annoying to have people eating right next to you. I'd be furious. If I can't act with people in the same room,
you can't act with an audience, with other casts.
It's dreadful. They're not seeing my writing.
So what I'm proposing, because that was such a big hit, people bought it up like no one's business.
Yeah, it was a good gimmick.
Is VR where you can sit somewhere else in the scene of like your film.
Yeah, okay.
Watch a film,
but like,
and you got
this
your
time I'm sitting on Simba's back.
So I thought of it because I was thinking like in the Shining, in the big like bar and ballroom where like
Lloyd,
there's all the dancers and Lloyd. You're just at a table like watching him.
Yeah, I think that'd be very good, and that's basically what happens in Ready Player One, which is the only reason to see that film.
All right,
it's a good airplane movie. It was on the airplane.
On the airplane.
I don't know why I'm calling it that. I'm afraid. I mean plane.
Yeah.
It's fine film, better film than book, but the stuff with The Shining is really cool because it does exactly that. They've like recreated the sets perfectly, and they go through them in ways that you didn't go through them in the film, which is a really weirdly effective, let's say gimmick again.
Yeah.
That kind of buys an interest that the scene might not otherwise have, because you absolutely don't care about why our protagonist Wade Watts happens to be in The Shining. But you do care a lot about, wow, that's what that looked like. Or like, that carpet is exactly there. Even down to like the camera quality, they did really well.
What if, to make it a bit worse, because you seem too on board with this idea, you can only do it in restaurants. In restaurant scenes.
But what, even restaurants that weren't in the film?
No.
So you're in the middle of like Othello, just sitting in a Pizza
No,
Express.
you can't do it in Othello, I'm afraid. You can only do it, and
Harry Met Sally, but
yeah,
only
you
for
could,
one scene.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking as well is that you're obviously all the seats around them are probably taken, so you're over the other side. You can't really see all that. It's probably
you can't even make like a reservation to get a good seat.
No.
Can you get a seat that's like at the same table as Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal doing the famous "I'll have what she's"?
Do they know you're there in your version of this?
Yes.
You're going to make sure.
I don't know how we maybe do that technologically speaking.
I like the idea that someone it's done on like a pay scale. So if you want to sit at the table with
like passive observer mode,
with them like at the table, it's like millions.
You can just
pounds.
like lean right into Billy Crystal's face and see all the pores.
You can like scratch his beard and whatnot.
Meg Ryan just shouting in your ear.
But also, like, if you can't afford that, there was a calf over the road in the film. You could like peering through the window.
You could like, rent one of those like opera glasses. Extortionate virtual opera glass.
Or like you have to.
Why not just zoom in on the film?
You have to like you have to be the cleaner in the restaurant, like, just like mopping the toilet.
You have to like stay in the scene because other people are watching as well, so you'd have to like perform your duties. That's interestingly basically another thing that happens in Ready Player One, the book, which is that one of the challenges is, I want to say, the film War Games, which I've never seen, but it's one of those 80s ones that there are. And the whole challenge, and for some crazy reason, this didn't make it into the Spielberg film. They swapped it out because I guess maybe they thought it was boring and bad.
Oh, okay, right.
Because all he has to do is be the lead character in the film. Like, just say the dialogue at the right times, walk to the right places, do the right actions. And it's like, can you do that? And he's like, well, seen that film a lot because I'm a poorly written one-dimensional character.
That is the worst thing I've ever heard. That is the worst idea I've ever heard.
It's pretty lame.
It's somehow worse than all the other ideas that I know from it.
Think about how I've described that idea, and it is boring, but I've tried to give it to you at least briefly. That is in a book. Like, imagine thinking of that idea and being like, this will work really well in print. Describing someone else being in a film.
You know what works really well if you've never seen the film War Games?
Imagine how cool it would be for a character who's only seen the film War Games.
You know, you definitely know that at some point in his life, someone's made that point to him, and he has
author.
Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten his name. Have you? Is it on the shelf over there? Declan's going to go and live research it. I'll be so annoyed.
It's worse than I remembered.
Give me a clue.
No.
Just tell me then, quick.
Ernest Cline.
Oh yeah, Ernie. We call him Ernie.
Someone made that point to him. That, like, you know, if you haven't seen War Games,
I
mean, it wasn't the most exciting scene anyway.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen it, it's, you know, like, people won't get the reference.
Yeah.
And he has responded with, you know, people didn't get all the references in Ulysses.
2001. But no one knows what that black box even was.
But it's still a masterpiece.
I also feel like it's not War Games that's the issue. Like, if it was my favourite film, like, it's just, there's definitely a real cap on how interesting it is for a character to be like, and then I said, I will take the ring to Mordor. Oh, well done. You fucking nailed it, mate. I hope that egg works. And then what, you win VR. Great.
Imagine if, like, I'd love a version of that. You could do so many good ones where they just fuck it up. So, like, you can't just
get past.
You can't just walk into Mordor. Oh, fuck.
That'd be a real shame.
Yeah, no, it is like a fundamentally bad concept.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't work.
But somehow it being War Games makes it worse. Like, he picked it because he really he knew that he could do that if it were him.
Yeah. Because it's a very cool 80s, I assume.
And he's a cool 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. And that speaks for itself if you ever get around to reading the book, which we're all waiting on you to do.
It's going to go the way of the Mort Dartha.
No.
Straight on the bonfire.
Oh, that's a shame. So, yeah, those people fucked right out of the cinema. The only other two things of note were the very bizarre, I did this nice little spiel last time about, wouldn't it be weird if I knocked on your door at 7 a.m. and was like, we're coming to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is essentially, I don't know if you do this, but one of my coping methods with life is that I reset my internal clock with startling frequency. Do you know what I mean by this, or will I explain more?
Explain more.
So if if you are in a flight, for example, like I was recently, and it's 10 hours, then every time I look at the clock, I do a little ritual where I pretend that the flight only just started, but I do it on quite a deep level where like, for all intents and purposes, it only has just started. So if I'm really bored by something, like if I was in a really boring play, then I'd like zone out for a bit and then just reset to be like, oh, this is the beginning of a 40-minute play rather than I'm 20 minutes into an hour play. See what I mean? And it's a good way to just accelerate time.
Right, okay.
By eternal sunshining yourself
it
out
feels
of
like,
the memory.
It feels like you just replace it with the exact same amount of time, but you prefer the way you've said it.
Well, yeah, but it's reframing how you think about it. It's like episodic rather than one long thing. Because if you just throw away that past stuff, that doesn't matter anymore. Because like I've been in the plane for 2 hours already, but like I don't have to do that anymore. So now I'm just on a 7-hour flight or whatever. Then I think it helps you to be positive about it.
See, that would make me feel even worse because it would make me feel like I'd constantly made no progress.
But you could have done something all right in those 2 hours, but you'd probably rather not be in the sky.
Yeah, but if I'd done that and then I was like, oh, I'm actually at the beginning of an 8-hour flight, I'd feel like I was even further away.
Oh, I don't know.
I'd at least be like, oh, right, 2 hours down.
Beginnings at least have their own intrigue, whereas the middle.
Do they? For you to go to sleep again?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, that's why am I on about this?
Because you were watching Texas Chainsaw at 7 a.m.
So, for all intents and purposes, I was just there watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre at 7 a.m. or whenever it was that it started, because I'd like dispensed with that pass. I'd unloaded it, like left all that on the table and then swiped it off into the sea. So now like the last film was there because I was tired at this point and I knew I had to get the train home afterwards.
I like the idea that because you did this, like every time a new film started, you just looked at me and went, Matthew, you're here.
Fuck! Happy birthday,
Good to
mate.
see you.
What's life like? Let's hope these cool people come back. But yeah, when we go in, because there's also in that, there's like becomes this sort of weird ritualistic, like watch it in the dark, go out for 5 minutes, watch it in the dark, go out for 5 minutes. It became a weird, like cyclical, like I started to panic that this is all my life was ever going to be from now on. Which is really the inverse problem to my previous dispense with the past attitude. There's a flip side to everything.
Dispense with the past, commit to the infinite loop in the future.
I find that quite often, yeah. That's another story for another time, I'm sure. But yeah, there we were, just before, and it was a very quiet Leicester Square that we found ourselves in, because people had been like petering out, much like the two people next to us had fucked off. Gradually, the crowd had thinned to the hardcore, the devotees, I suppose, of the classic horror genre, amongst whom I found myself standing just outside the Prince Charles at like 7 a.m, the sun yet to come up, just very quiet. And I talked before about how there's like a particularly dead time, especially at weekends as well, where everyone who's been out has gone home at like 4 or 5. And people who are going to be at work have not quite yet arrived. So it was completely like the quietest I've ever seen Leicester Square. Really dark, peaceful, cold. No star jumps this time. Just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We went in, that film shouts at you in a way that is totally unpleasant.
Yeah, it's like...
I don't really like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I feel bad for saying that because people always have a go at me when I say that.
It is very good.
I've never liked it,
I think.
And I also don't know what's that good about it. I mean, it's got some very horrid, striking images, but it's shot like an accident.
Yeah, I feel like it's shot like an accident on purpose. But I think it's very good because it isn't the most horrible concept. Like, it is pretty like...
I find the concept very horrible.
Yeah, well, it is. I'm not saying it's not horrible, but I'm saying that it's quite generic in a sense.
Yeah.
There is a like masked guy with a chainsaw who kills young people.
Makes funny sounds.
Yeah, but it's that somehow it's just something fundamental to that film that it's gutturally, primally horrid.
Yeah, it's very
from
nasty.
The first to the last second. So it is, I think, unenjoyable.
Yeah,
but I think it's very. That's what makes it very good because
it's done a good
it's
job
so
of
like
horrid.
efficiently like just the most disgusting.
Yeah, it is very nasty.
Thing.
I do wonder about how much of that is intentional, which I guess doesn't really matter in the end. But there are bits of it that make you think that the good bits happened by accident rather than as part of a broader scheme of like the banality of this group. Like it's just a totally random setting, because there's no setup, there's no plot, there's no context, there's no acting, there's no dialogue.
No, definitely not.
And that works if the whole point is like, this is just part of America.
Yeah,
where
it's just
mad stuff happens.
Yeah.
But I question sometimes whether that was the intent. Anyway,
I would say as a final point on that though, that I think that the proof of the fact that it is that film still like stands out and has those moments. Whereas if you take any horror film sequel, that's all they're trying, like all they had to do was make it horrible and it would be fine.
That's
and
true.
they still can't, like it's just a bit shit.
Yeah, there is some very iconic. And the final, it's weird, that final shot of Leatherface dressed in that horrid giant suit.
Apron light.
Suit with weird like Blues Brothers vibe and a wig, just waving against this like sun, it's like a lens flare sun. It's so out of place. It looks like he's in like an indie movie.
Yeah.
And it's very odd. It's a beautiful shot, but you're just like, well, why did you not do any of that before? But yes, you're right. Very striking, and it has stood the test of time. So I'm one round, and I've seen it about 100 times anyway. Yeah. So I clearly like it on some level. But it's a profoundly disquieting film in the most literal sense as well, because it just shouts the fuck out of you.
It's spiritually unsettling.
Yeah. There are like the last 40 minutes, basically from the first chainsaw that you hear, it doesn't stop being very loud and aggressive, which at that time of the morning, like no matter whether you've been up and whether you're in the middle of a horror film marathon, the end, or you had just woken up, like Siri woke you up at 7 with a reminder like, get Texy Chainsaw on. It's just really weird. Like there's something very odd about that experience at that time.
It's not when it's supposed to be,
No. And then hammered home by exiting the cinema into the brightest sunlight God had on offer that day. Like a beautiful, dazzling...
People doing yoga.
Yeah, there were people doing yoga outside. There were like street bands playing. There were already in Leicester Square the people who just stand and pretend to be different things for money. You know the ones I mean.
Yeah, I know the ones you mean.
Yeah, so that was very upsetting. They did a survivor's photo and everyone shouted, I hope, no, what's with
your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karis.
Which was, a shame, really. But
Exorcist
it did remind me...
is a very good film, isn't it?
It's very good. And it reminded me as well that I've heard Ian McKellen say all those lines because he voiced the demon in the bizarre stage production.
Did he do a sort of...
No, he just did his normal Ian McKellen.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell. Caris. Merrin.
It was really good. It was well fun, actually. Now I think of it. I just want the soundtrack.
I want more characters replaced
by Ian McKellen. He's slowly going to take over.
I want like Buzz Lightyear.
To infinity and beyond.
I will go sailing. No more.
But yeah, it was very good. And it leads us on to our final conversational topic, which is going to be a brief one, because this episode's gone longer than the original, would you believe? And I don't know if it's even audible. So that'll be
almost certainly not.
Which was...
What would you do if there were the same audio...
in the same places?
Just turned out it was our voices.
Off the balcony. Straight up.
Straight
down Mount Privilo and off that balcony.
Colindale chainsaw massacre yourself.
We were talking before we turned this mic on about doing some kind of countdown to the spooktacular, because I love Halloween and I don't feel like it's in... You know how Christmas just is all around? Even the songs say, don't they? Like, Christmas is everywhere. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Like, it's hard to escape. Halloween in the UK is all too easy to escape. And having just been in America, where they had all their Halloween stuff already up, I feel like it's a holiday that we have to work at. And here at That's a Shame, we believe in putting effort in to get the rewards that we want. And so in order to, I guess, spookify the month of Spooktober, what do you think we could do as a podcasting entity to develop that Halloween countdown, that sense that there is a ghost in every corner?
Well, to be fair, I think that certainly in terms of the podcasting world, but even just the broader populace at large, we do more than our fair share of promoting...
Spreading the spooks.
Yeah. Like of just getting the message out about ghosts.
Yeah, that's true. We're good
heads up that they're there.
Yeah. And that we let people know what they want sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Like if it's good things or bad things.
We haven't asked the spirits in a while. We should probably do that again.
That would be a good one to do.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do like a little countdown of short episodes where we
revisit some famous spooks.
Some of our spookiest segments.
Okay.
From across the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, why not? And then for the Spooktacular itself, obviously we'll have worked out some kind of very, very terrifying.
Haunted.
We're also looking to go to a Fright Night at Thorpe Park very soon. I've found a video that proves them to be just totally upsetting experiences of running through a shack while people chase you.
Good.
And what's more wholesome than that?
Yeah, why wouldn't you spend 40 quid to be chased?
Exactly. People have been doing it since it's the world's oldest profession.
Well, yeah.
Chasing people around in a shack, in a sense. Cool. Any ideas about that, Declan? Any ideas about that, comma? Declan will tell you how to get in touch with them.
So here we go, guys. It's gone 4 a.m. and I'm tired and the episode's really long. So we're going to rattle through these. I mean, you should know them by now anyway, if I'm honest. But
just in case.
I won't, hold it against you if you don't.
Don't make an ass out of you and me.
No. So you can email TAS, T-A-S, at shame.city. You can also find your way into our inboxes via the website shame.city/contact. You can find the show on Twitter at That's a Shamecast. You can find Isaac at IsaacBD, and you can find myself at D.E. Delane.
Go on.
If you have a review to give us, 5 stars only, please.
Yeah, go on. Let's not fuck around with 4.
Then head over to iTunes on any particular device you like.
Click it in the show notes, guys.
Or go on the show notes or shame.city/review or reviews. If you have a dollar, a penny, a couple of quid, some
25 cents an
Copex,
episode,
just chuck us some of that over at patreon.com/shamecity and you'll immediately have access to about
15,
maybe 5 dozen,
just hundreds of episodes,
about 15 new episodes, like shorter episodes of individual content.
And more to come every month.
Exactly.
They're going to be pretty spooky this month. That's a warning. So if you're somebody who can't handle that, then stay away.
Those of a spookless disposition,
you get out. Get out of town.
Finally, I suppose, as ever, do wommy bomb the hell out of the show.
Yeah, do please.
It's a month where you're legally allowed to go up to anyone and say boo.
Yeah, so
once you've done that,
boo, and then show them the podcast.
Yeah. So word of mouth, of course, being the best of mouth. Is there anything else that we've missed? I
think that's all of it, This has been episode 109, hasn't it? Sorry, it sounds different. And if you're not a patron, then you won't have heard this audio quality before.
No.
So get used to it. We're going to mix things up these days. And that's part of the versatility of us as artists.
I think if they stuck with us through recording on the balcony and in the car,
the blocks proj.
This is probably fine.
Step up.
Fingers crossed anyway.
Well, cheers, guys. See you very soon.
Bye.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. The bare necessities, the bare necessities, the bare necessities of life will come to